In this video, I'm going to teach you the 2 simple things that you need to know as a duelist to get Radiant. There are only 2 things that a duelist player needs to know to get Radiant in Valorant. Yet, most of the Jett mains that I coach who are gold, silver, platinum are too busy sniffing glue and blaming their teammates to actually learn anything. But before you understand that, you need to understand that there are types of duelists. Fundamentally, you have what would be considered entry duelists, like Raze, Jett, and Neon, and you have what are considered follow-up duelists, like Reyna and Phoenix. Now, I know what you're thinking. I've entryed on Reyna plenty of times. Yeah, that's true. You can definitely do that. But we're talking about, theoretically, what are these agents going to be used for? So when you're going into a game and you've picked Reyna, your playstyle is going to be drastically different than if you pick Jett. It just shouldn't be the same, or you won't be maximizing your character's value. Now, to understand your job as a duelist, the first thing you need to know is that your job is to create space for your team. And we do this differently on the 2 different duelist archetypes. The most obvious space creation is entering on an agent like Jett. You dash into the bomb site, you create space for your team to run out behind you, and hopefully you don't die in the process. During my coaching sessions with people who are playing these types of agents, I see a big mistake on the entrying. The big mistake that I see is that these players don't understand when it's time to entry. So here's a quick little rundown of factors that you can use to decide when it's time to go on a bomb site hit. Number 1 is, who do I have around me? This counts for enemies and your own team. You need to be taking into consideration what abilities could be used for you and what abilities could be used against you. For example, if you're getting ready to entry on B site Ascent as Jett, you should be calling for your Sova or your KO to throw some utility to help you on your entry. You also need to be aware of what abilities the other team is going to have to throw at you. For example, a lot of people like to play Killjoy on B, so it's good to keep in mind where the setup is generally going to be around and try to avoid it or at least plan for it. The other thing you have to take into consideration before you entry a site is the positioning of your teammates. So not only what abilities can they throw for you, but are they even ready? Are your teammates paying attention? This is something I see all the time and in every elo of game. And I think that these things are obvious to talk about, but in practice, this does not happen. I'm telling you firsthand as someone who coaches low elo Valorant players, they do not do this, which is that people feel rushed to entry bomb sites. As the duelist, you are setting the pace for the entry. So it's your job to call for the utility and go out on your own timing. So now that we've talked about making space on entry duelist agents, let's talk about what it means to make space on these sort of second in or lurk style duelists. Imagine this. You're playing Ascent and your team calls to go A. All 5 of you rush into A, but you get absolutely destroyed by utility when you try to entry. You're getting breach stunned, you're getting mollied, you're getting darted. There's just no way you're going to get past all of this util. And now that your rush is stopped, the entire other team is going to already be rotated to A by the time you're able to get past this util. So there's no point in going in. This is where the lurking Reyna comes into play, unironically.
You underestimate my power! Don't try it!
See, as the Reyna or the Phoenix, you aren't integral to the hit. You're not providing a dart and you're not dashing in. So you could be there or you could not be there. It doesn't make the biggest difference in the world. And that's what's going to create these opportunities for you to find lurks and create space for your team in that way. Think of yourself like an insurance policy if the whole hit gets stuffed. And this is one way to create space on these type of secondary duelists. Now, as a side note, I'm not advocating for you to lurk every single round on a duelist, especially if your team already has a Sentinel who can do this, or a Viper in some cases. You shouldn't be the one doing this, but you can, and it is viable. The second way to create space on these types of duelists is by following in your entry duelist and making sure they're well supported on the entry. This means that you understand how they're pathing and you path to complement that and kill the people who they're distracting as they go in. For example, imagine you're on A site Ascent and your Jett dashes in and there's a player up on Shroud. Theoretically, this player is going to turn their crosshair to look at the Jett dashing in, and you should be able to pop out of main and kill them. And that's the other way that you can create space on a secondary duelist, is by following up on the entry duelist and capitalizing off of their play. Now, this was all generally attack-centered information. We're talking about entrying, we're talking about lurking and getting lurk timings, and following up on entries. On the defense side, you need to look at it not as creating space, but as creating opportunities. As the duelist, it's your job to facilitate engagements and tell your teammates how they should be playing around you. All of the other agents on the team should exist to serve the Jett or the Reyna or the Phoenix. And that's not to say that these other agents like Sova or Omen or whoever else can't stand on their own and make their own plays. But theoretically speaking, we want to be facilitating our duelists because they're going to get the most value out of our utility. Keep in mind, as a support player, you're always better off using your utility to support other people than you are using it for yourself, although using it for yourself can be done successfully. So with all of that being said, our goal on defense side as a duelist is to create opportunities. So I'll give a couple of examples on how exactly we can do this, and you can extend it to your own game. Number one is jet with an op. I think this is probably the most universal thing that we can all think of when we're talking about defense side utility usage for our duelists. So we think of Haven A site and think about sewer. You use a breach stun to clear a lobby so the jet can get down into sewer and post with his op. This is the kind of thing that you as a jet player or any other kind of duelist need to call for to create this opportunity for your team to get ahead in the round. Similarly, we can create opportunities for our teammates by playing off of their own setups. For example, if my Killjoy has a turret taking contact in garage, I can play Phoenix and use a flash to set up a trap play off of my teammate's turret. Or if I want to take a piece of map control early, I can call for my Sova to dart the area that I want to take to get information and take better duels than I otherwise would be able to. Getting this information creates the opportunity to gather some first bloods for our team, and not only that, but it gets information for other people playing on the opposite side of the map from us. And this is why being a proactive duelist is so important, because you are able to dictate the pace of these rounds on attack and defense side. So it's your job to make sure your teammates know how to set you up to succeed. These types of setups and plays create opportunities for your teammates to get ahead in the round. At the very least, it's going to give your team direction and garner you some information for the rest of your teammates who aren't involved in the play to play off of. And you might be thinking to yourself that the initiator should be the one who should be initiating these types of plays. While I think that's possible, and it's definitely a viable way to set up your team, I think in ranked, you generally don't want to have this attitude. In a ranked setting, the duelist should be the one to create these sorts of setups to maximize their comfort and autonomy from round to round. Because in my opinion, if you have a comfortable duelist who's able to frag out in the way that they want and maximize their own potential, you're much better off just forming your team around them in a ranked setting than you are trying to force a duelist to make whatever play you want them to make. And so in a nutshell, those are the two things that you need to know to rank up as a duelist. If you understand that you need to create space on attack and you need to create opportunities on defense, there's really no stopping you. As long as you're not horribly toxic or have really bad aim or something, the sky is the limit for you as a player. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and feel free to drop a comment about any topics you want me to talk about in the future. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.